All right, so the next piece, and those should be auto-populating, we'll just double check that. The next piece is the density that we'll need for the bottom of the invoice. So we come in here, and as far as density, we don't have any super light. It was all pretty thick forest over there. So we'll pull that out. Yellow. Again, clear out the cells that it's calling on and drop in these acres are yellow, as are these and these and these. So we've got 65 acres of moderate density, and then we have one section of high density. Again, you're just selecting on the acres. So that's what we're keeping track of. Okay, makes sense. So then you go back to the invoice tab now that you've got kind of those calculators loaded in. And as far as perimeter cut goes, so this is showing, let me just do a size change here for you. We really don't need that data on the left anymore, so I'll pop it out a little. So as far as perimeter goes, we are totaling 3.9 miles of perimeter. So I'll go back in here and put 3.9. And this is a cost per mile that we've just determined. Again, Mike and I would factor in whether there was slope or maybe there's archaeology stuff we have to drive around, so the perimeter's got a little bit complicated or a lot of jaggedy lines. So that's the perimeter side of the invoice. Then we go down to the mechanical roller treatment side of the invoice. And this is not populating, so we'll go ahead and pull that in. Now what we're looking for is the slope rating of the mechanical treatment only. That's all we're looking for right now. So oops, I should have done this. For the gentle, we're going to go ahead and pull in the acreage from the gentle, which is this. And I think you can just copy down. Okay, so we should have 68.5 total acres. We'll just verify. Yep, so we've got 1622.28, 1622.28. We're good. Okay. All right, so then we move down to the post-roller treatment or the cleanup, and we don't have any, right? So we're not billing for any of that, so we'll just go in and pull out there's no variable there anyhow, so no acreage count there, which is great. Now we go into the density, so this is a surcharge on top, kind of on top of everything we do. So how many acres do we have in light? Let's see, I don't think we have any. Oh boy, it's covering it up. So I need to go into acres of light. None. Then I just copy that formula down. So there's our 68.5. That checks out on the other tab as well as up above on that upper section of the invoice. Then talk to Mike and Daniel and see if there was any archaeology work that needs to be paid that we prepaid, or any transportation or any services. Add those in. So there's a cost per and how many hours. So if we're going to be 5 hours here for that work or what have you. Okay, so just a little calculator to add in what you need. Now once that's populated, so we've done the calc tab, now we're doing the invoice tab. See that down here? The next step is to transition out of Google Sheets or Excel into Google Slides or into PowerPoint. So we've got the templates all built. I've just made a copy of the last invoice. I go in and delete the active table that I just generated. I'll quickly update the date to July. By the time we get it in, it's probably going to be the 25th, 2021. And what I'll typically do is just change this to represent the year. So the ID or the invoice ID, and then the invoice number. So in 2021, this was invoice number 5. Okay, don't need to change any of the rest of the bottom. I then go back to the invoice tab. I'll shrink it down just a little bit so I can get it all in the field. Make sure your cursor's out of the way. Print screen. If you're on a Mac, it's Command-Shift-4. If you're on a PC, I don't know. Select the active field. Once I've copied it, paste it in. do a little stretchy. Again, this will probably get modified. Mike's going to want to look at it and make some changes, so it doesn't have to be perfect on the first pass. So now I've created page 1 of the invoice. $71,000 needs to be billed. I've updated all the active data fields. Now I move on to page 2, which is a little bit more the detail here. So you'll see there's the calc fields that we're going to bring in so that you can see all the assumptions upon which the data was derived. So I'll delete that out, go back to my sheet, pull up the calc, copy the active fields. I put these in the left, by the way, guys. This was the last invoice, invoice 4. One thing to note is we did not bill for the cleaning of P3, P4, P5, P7, and P8. So when we go to bill for the cleanup of those, if they are cleaned up, we need to make sure that we document that and we invoice for that. Okay, so it's just good to keep track of the old invoices. P4, did we bill for? Maybe we only billed for step 1 and 2. Like this invoice number 5, we're billing for perimeter and rolling, but not cleaning. So we just got to make sure we're keeping track of what we missed on the last invoice to make sure we don't miss invoicing anything. So I'll select the active field here. That's really all we need. You could leave the cleaning out, but for continuity's sake, it's probably good to provide it so they can see that there was no cleaning done, not have to assume anything. Again, a little stretchy. Now this is where I would spend time. If I had got the files from Nate, I would load it into Google Earth and I would change all the colors to align with this legend here. So white lines would be original parcel, blue lines are the perimeter paths, yellow means that we've pulled the area, and orange means that we've cleaned it. So that way, if you've got an orange, you can tell that it's sitting on top of those yellow. So it gives a good, quick, ready reference to know what work was done and applies on this invoice. For the sake of time this time, and I don't have the information from Nate, all I'm going to do is copy in screenshots from the work that was done. Ideally, you would get an aerial photo from the drone showing the trees down so that they can actually see a visual confirmation that the work was completed. This just shows that the data points align with the target area or the target poly. And I just kind of manually nest them in to try and make them work. And then the last two we can probably pull in one. So at least you kind of get the drift of how we were building and compiling the evidence of the work that was completed. Again, you could take 100 hours and make this thing a work of art, but I think it's overkill. So anyway, once you're done with that, then you just save this as a PDF. I'll go ahead and do that now. File download as PDF. I've changed the name already and changed the date on it. So now all I'm going to do is go back to my email and I'm going to email Mike, all of you actually. I'll just reply to all. Here's the first pass of the invoice. Drag and drop. I'm going to go ahead and add the video link to this as well. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.